Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential, and today we're taking a closer look at the Janome Horizon Memory Craft 8200 QCP, just one of a wide range of sewing machines, overlockers and cover stitch machines available to buy on our site sewessential.co.uk. At Sew Essential, we pride ourselves on using our expert knowledge to help you find the perfect machine for you. And that's why we've made this video, but we're also always here to support you by phone or email too. The Janome Memory Craft 8200 QCP is an outstanding sewing machine. It has an enormous 11 inches or 280 millimetres to the right of the needle. And to put that into context, a standard sewing machine has about 170. The Atelier range has 210. So you really are getting an amazing amount of space under the arm of the machine. Add to that the fact that you get an extra large extension table, and even the biggest and most ambitious projects can be sewn with ease. It comes with an excellent range of feet and accessories included as standard, such as the straight stitch plate, which can be used with finer fabrics, and the AcuFeed system. An adjustable darning foot, which can eradicate some of those common problems you might experience with free motion embroidery or applique. It has an extra spool pin so that you can wind bobbins without the need to unthread the machine, and it comes with the advanced AcuFeed system, which is an advanced superior walking foot system, not to be confused with a standard walking foot, and it actually links in with the feed dogs on the machine. It has automatic thread tension, so the machine will automatically set the optimum tension for the stitch that you've chosen. It has 170 stitches, including 10 different styles of buttonhole and 4 alphabets. The maximum stitch width is 9 millimeters, which really shows those beautiful decorative stitches and the alphabets to their full potential. You can elongate stitches whilst maintaining their density, mirror stitches to create lovely borders. You can program combinations of stitches, and you've even got options for things like hand sewn quilting stitches, where the machine will create stitches that look as if they've been hand sewn. It can sew up to speeds of 1,000 stitches per minute, and it has all of those other features you would expect on a machine at this point in the range. The scissor snips button, needle up down, the start stop button, sliding speed control, all of those things you would expect to see. I'll pop a link in the corner of the screen so you can view the machine on our website and purchase it there. Later in the video we'll take a look at what's in the box, but now let's get started at taking a look at what this incredible machine can do for you. To thread the machine, we start by winding the bobbin, and although this is a very advanced machine and this is a very rudimentary function, I still want to show you because I think there are some standout features that make it exceptional even in this area. Number one, the way that the thread sits within this carved out area on the top of the machine. I think that just keeps everything in place when you're sewing, when you're winding your bobbins, when you're performing all of those functions. You've also got this handy foot storage here so that you've got that special place to store those feet and have access to them nice and easily. And the other key function of the Memory Craft 8200 QCP in this area is that you've got a second spool pin, which okay, you will get on many machines, but on the Memory Craft 8200 QCP, you can use that not only for a twin needle, but also for winding bobbins, so that you don't have to unthread the machine to wind a bobbin. So you might be part way through a project and you might not want to unthread your needle. You can use that second spool pin to wind a bobbin without having to unthread the needle, which I just think is so useful and a feature I use all the time on my machine. So to wind the bobbin, we're just going to slide the spool of thread onto the spool pin, secure it with one of the spool caps. You get several of those included with the machine. And then we're going to take it around guide number 1, around guide number 2, around the back there, and then bring it across here to where the bobbin winder is, and then we're just going to pop the end of the thread through the hole on the top of the bobbin, slot it onto the bobbin winder, push it to the right, and then you can either use your foot control or the start-stop mechanism to wind your bobbin. And another fantastic thing about the 8200 QCP is the speed as well. So it sews 1,000 stitches per minute, and you can see that speed comes into its own when you're winding the bobbin as well. It's lovely and quick. To insert the bobbin, we just need to press this black button to the right, and that will release the bobbin case cover. Then you want your thread coming down the left-hand side of your bobbin. Drop it into the bobbin case, and you want the thread to go through the metal notch on the front of the bobbin case and then around the metal guide here. You can just put your finger on the bobbin as you bring the thread up and over like so, and then you can cut the excess thread off using the built-in thread cutter there. Replace the cover and your bobbin is now threaded. Threading the needle is lovely and easy. We place the thread on the spool pin in the same way as for winding the bobbin, and then we're going to raise the presser foot to open those tension discs, and this is another feature of the 8200 that I really like. It's got a lovely big lever on the back of the machine for raising and lowering the presser foot, so it's very easy to feel for. It's very robust and sturdy, and it makes that job that you have to do fairly regularly nice and easy. I'm also going to press the needle up down button located on the front of the machine, and that will bring the take up lever into its highest position, making it nice and easy to get the thread through that path. So we're going to go behind guide number 1 again, behind guide number 2, and around the metal notch on the top. You can also, before you start threading the needle, you can on this machine lock it out by pressing the key button on the keypad, and that will just prevent you from accidentally starting to sew or doing anything else whilst you're threading the machine. So if you're inexperienced, or you're particularly clumsy, or perhaps you're letting somebody inexperienced use the machine, it's a good way just to make sure that nothing accidentally starts sewing. But we bring the thread down the front of the machine, back up, and then through that take up lever from right to left, and you just want to make sure that the thread sits nicely in that take up lever. Just hold the other end of the thread if you need to make sure you've got it secured at the front of the take up lever, and then bring it down the front of the machine. To finish threading the needle, we can use the automatic needle threader. If your needle isn't already in the highest position, just make sure you press that needle up down button to bring it into the highest position. And then we're going to take the thread behind the metal guide here, behind the guide on the needle bar there, and then we're going to use this lever to draw the needle threader down. And then you can take the thread around the guide on the side of the needle threader, under the guide to the right of the needle and across the eye of the needle. And then when you release the needle threader, it pulls that thread through the eye of the needle. And then you can just take the thread under the foot and to the back of the machine. Once the machine is threaded, it's time to choose one of those over 200 stitches built into the machine, plus all of those lovely alphabets as well. So I'm just going to give you a walk round of the control panel and show you how easy to use it is and how intuitive it is. All of those stitches are shown inside the top cover of the machine, and they're organised into 6 different modes. To select the mode, you just press the button here, and you can select any of the modes from 1 to 6. Once you've chosen the relevant mode, you simply type in the number of the stitch that you would like to sew. And you'll see here that the machine has automatically shown me which foot I need to use with that stitch. So I need to use the F foot, and it's automatically set the optimum stitch width and stitch length, and you'll notice that the maximum stitch width is 9mm on this machine, so it's a lot wider than you'll get on machines lower down the range, which sort of vary anywhere between 5 and 7mm wide normally. And that just means when you are working with these beautiful decorative stitches, you can really maximise the impact of them and really make the most of them in your sewing projects. However, if you do want to make them smaller, you have got the option to override that stitch width with the buttons beneath. So I can reduce the width if I want to. And you've also got that option with the stitch length as well, so I can reduce that and I can increase it back up again. Next to the mode button we have the auto thread snip button, so when I select that I can see the scissors displayed on the screen, and that means whenever I use the target stitch, the machine will automatically snip those threads for me. I do have the option to manually press a button on the front of the machine to snip the threads as well, but if I want to automate that feature, I have got that option there. At the bottom of the screen we've got 4 of the most commonly used stitches so that you've got quick access to those, so a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch, and then you'll also notice here the perfect 1/4 inch stitch, which is incredibly useful for patchwork and quilting, but in all honesty there's lots of times when I use a 1/4 inch stitch in my dressmaking as well, but it will give you that real precision and accuracy. If we look at the right hand side of the panel, you have the elongation button there, which allows you to sew a satin stitch and enlarge it but maintain the density and the shape of it, and I'll show you more about that later in the video. You also have the twin needle button, and when you select a stitch that isn't suitable with that twin needle button, so I'm just going to select a stitch now. If you press that twin needle button and it's not suitable, it will make the beeping sound and the twin needle icon will flash on the screen. So that shows me that that stitch is not suitable with a twin needle. Now on lots of sewing machines you would have to work that out for yourself. That facility doesn't exist, and you would have to turn the hand wheel of the machine and check that the twin needle wasn't going to hit the foot. But on the Memory Craft 8200 it will do that for you. If I select a stitch that is appropriate for the twin needle, you can see there that normally the maximum stitch width for that particular stitch is 9mm, but if I press the twin needle button, it will alter that stitch width to 3mm because that is the maximum width that it can be sewn at with a twin needle. So the machine is doing all the thinking for me. Here we have the mirror stitch button, which allows me to sew the stitches in the opposite orientation. And then we have the settings button, and that allows me to do things like stop the beeping sounds when I press the button. Sometimes people like to switch that off. It allows me to choose whether I want the machine to stop sewing with the needle in the fabric or above the fabric, and I can really sort of tailor the machine to my preferences there. Here we have the memory button, which we can use to program combination of stitches so that we can repeat a set pattern over and over again. And there's the clear button to clear that program, or even send us back to where we started when we've been selecting stitches. And then there's also a start over button here, which if we stop midway through a program of stitches that we've selected, we can choose where we want to pick those stitches up from again. And then finally, you've got your lockout key, which you can press when you're threading the machine or changing feet if you want to make sure that you don't accidentally start sewing while you're doing those sorts of things. So now let's just take a look at some of those basic sewing functions, and then we'll progress on to some of the more specialist techniques. But the first thing I want to say when we do this is just the enormous amount of space you've got under the arm with the Memory Craft 8200. To the right of the needle, you have 11 inches, which is 280 millimetres. So even the biggest quilts and biggest projects will easily fit under the arm of your machine. And just to put that into context, the Atelier 6 is also a long arm machine in the Janome range, but that gives you 210 millimetres or 8.3 inches to the right of the needle. So you're getting an extra 70 millimetres to the right of the needle on the Memory Craft 8200. So that in itself is just a wonderful, wonderful feature. To lower the presser foot, we just use the presser foot lever on the back of the machine behind the needle bar, and that's nice and big and substantial, so it's very easy to find, which I really like about this machine. You've also got the option for extra presser foot lift on this machine as well. So if I've got the presser foot raised now, if I press that lever at the back of the machine up again, I can raise the presser foot and create a huge amount of space between the foot and the base of the machine, which just means if you are working on things like quilts or coats or bulky projects, curtains, it makes life much easier to fit that fabric under the foot. And you'll notice my hands are free. I'm not holding on to that lever. I've been able to let go of that, and it stays in that higher position, just making it nice and easy for me to get my project under there. And then once I've got it in position, I can then lower the presser foot. To start sewing, we can use the reverse stitch to secure our seam. So if we just hold that down and press our foot on the foot control, the machine will sew backwards, and when I let go of that button, it will sew forwards. You've also got the target stitch button, which we mentioned earlier. If I press that, the machine will sew a few stitches on the spot to secure that line of stitches. So it's just a neater alternative to the reverse stitch. And then I've got the scissor button, which I can press to snip my threads. And then I can remove the fabric from the machine. So you can see there, we've got the reverse stitch at the start, and then we've got the option of the target stitch for a super neat finish at the end. And on the back of the fabric, you can just see that the target stitch, those threads are tied, and it's just so lovely and neat. And then of course I did mention earlier in the video that we have the option to automate the scissor snips button. So I'm just going to press that on my keypad now. I can see the scissor icon on my keypad. So I'm going to go ahead and sew now. And then when I reach the point where I want to stop, I'm going to press the target stitch button, put my foot on the foot control, and you can see there it's sewn that target stitch and snipped the threads for me. I haven't even had to touch the scissor button. It's automated the whole process for me. If I just remove the fabric, you can see again we've got that lovely neat finish there, and the stitches have been secured on the wrong side of the fabric. Another incredibly useful feature is the sliding speed control. So you can control the speed that the machine sews at with the foot control. However, you can set your sliding speed control to the slowest speed, and even if you put your foot all the way down on the foot control, it will only sew at the slowest speed. So that's really useful if you're doing something where you need to take your time, you want to be careful, you're not feeling 100% confident, because it's so easy with a foot control to over-egg it, put your foot down too far. And this just gives you the option to control that. So I'm on the slowest speed now. I'm going to put my foot all the way down on the foot control. And you can see there we're going at the slowest speed, so I haven't got to worry about that, and I can really concentrate on my sewing. But if I put it back up to the top speed, one of the great advantages of the 8200 is that it will sew up to 1,000 stitches per minute, so you can whiz through those more straightforward parts of your sewing. So you can see we've got that much higher speed there. If I want to control the sewing with the start-stop button, I've also got that option. I just have to unplug my foot control, and I can use the start-stop button in conjunction with the sliding speed control. So if I start sewing now and press it again to stop, you can see that was sewing at the fastest speed. If I put it down to the slowest speed, it will only sew at that slowest speed. When you purchase the Memory Craft 8200 from us, you also get a knee lift included, and people really like this feature because it means you can raise and lower the presser foot but keep both hands on the fabric, so it's really useful for things like free motion embroidery. The knee lift just slots into the front of the machine, and then if I push with my knee to the right, that's raising the presser foot for me, and I can lower it again, and I can keep both hands on the fabric, so I haven't got to use the lever at the back of the machine. And when I'm doing free motion embroidery, that just gives me a lot more control over the fabric, which is incredibly useful too. You'll also find the needle up down button here, so if I press that, the needle is raised. If I press it again, it'll be lowered. And like I said, you can automate the machine for your preference, whether you want the needles to finish in the fabric when you finish sewing, or whether you want it to finish above the fabric when you finish sewing. And when we're in a straight stitch, if we increase or decrease the width of our stitch, it will move the needle to the left or the right. So I'm just going to increase the width now, and you'll see the needle move across to the right. And then I'm going to move it to the left. And you can see it moving to the left. So this is really useful for things like piping or zips, where you want to really place those stitches accurately, exactly where you want them. You've got the option to control that. And when we were talking about speed as well, and we're talking about settings, you do even have the option to set the speed that you want to start sewing at. So you've got lots and lots of features and options in the settings on this machine to really personalise it and set it to your preferences and make it your own personal machine. I thought it would be nice to show you a buttonhole being stitched out on the Memory Craft 8200, because not only do you get an automatic buttonhole foot included with the machine when you purchase it from us, but you also get one of these, which is a buttonhole stabiliser plate. And normally there might not be one available for your machine, or you might have to purchase it separately. But when you purchase the Memory Craft 8200 from us via the links below, you can find them on our website, you do get one of these included. So it's just a nice additional extra. And you don't have to use the stabiliser plate when you sew a buttonhole, but it's really useful for things like sewing buttonholes on particularly thick fabrics, buttonholes that are in an awkward position, or when you're sewing buttonholes on loose weave fabrics, things like tweeds and coating fabrics, where the fabric might have a tendency to get caught on the feed dogs. The stabiliser plate just smooths everything out and makes sewing those buttonholes even easier. You'll find the plate and the foot in this lovely large storage compartment at the back of the machine. So not only do you get the one that you would expect on the front of the machine, you also get a lovely large storage compartment at the back, which I really like as well. And then to sew the buttonhole, you want to open the back of the foot, place your button in there and close it, so that's nice and secure. Then I'm going to take my fabric and place my fabric over the buttonhole stabiliser plate, And then I'm going to place the buttonhole foot, I'm going to attach it at the front there. There's a slot on the buttonhole foot that goes over the metal guide on the front of the stabiliser plate. So my fabric's now sandwiched between the plate and the foot. I'm going to press the black button on the back of the needle bar just to drop off that standard presser foot and get that out of the way. And then this is one of those instances where that extra presser foot lift's really handy. I'm just going to use that now, raise that right up, and it just makes it nice and easy to manoeuvre everything under the needle bar. And I am going to pass the thread through the opening on the front of the foot as well, just get that through there. And again, just having that extra space there just makes some of these trickier tasks a lot easier. It's such a nice feature, especially if you're into quilting and bulkier projects. And then we're just going to lower the needle bar to clamp that foot into position. And then I can raise it again, and there are linings and markings on the buttonhole stabiliser plate that I can line the edge of my fabric up with. So that's nice if you're doing a series of buttonholes on a garment perhaps, and you want to know that you're going to position them the same distance from the edge of the fabric. You can use those markings on that plate. I'm going to then lower the presser foot, and then the really important step is to bring down your buttonhole lever. You just pull it down at the left hand side here. That makes contact with the foot, and that's what tells the machine when to change direction when sewing your buttonhole. I'm going to loosely hold the excess thread as it gets started, and all I need to do now is just put my foot down on the foot control and off we go. And then I can just press my scissor snips button, raise the presser foot, and I can remove that fabric then. And you can see there we've got an absolutely beautifully neat buttonhole sewn. It's absolutely gorgeous and it's so easy. And you've also got the option with the Memory Craft 8200 to adjust the stitch density if you want to. You just use your stitch length increase or decrease button to do that, so you can make those stitches closer together. You've also got the option to adjust your stitch width, your buttonhole width on this machine as well, and you just use the increase or decrease buttons on the width there. The other amazing thing about this machine is that it does go up to a 9mm stitch width. So, you know, when you're doing your decorative stitches and things, obviously having that max 9mm width is great, but also it means you can really increase the width of your buttonholes as well, up to 9mm. One of the real standout features of the Memory Craft 8200 for me is that you get the AcuFeed system included. So AcuFeed is a superior walking foot. It's an advanced walking foot system. So with a standard walking foot, the idea is that not only do you have the grips on your feed dogs on the machine, but you also have grips on the walking foot so that it feeds tricky fabrics, stretch fabrics, multiple layers of fabric through the machine evenly. If you don't use a walking foot in some of those instances, you run the risk of the top and the bottom layers or the multiple layers feeding through the machine at different rates and then not being attached where you want them to be, not matching up properly. So you can use a standard walking foot to avoid that problem. But with the Memory Craft 8200, you get this advanced walking foot system, the AcuFeed, and this metal hook at the top here actually hooks into the back of the machine, and it means that the feed dogs on the bottom of the foot and the ones on the sewing machine actually synchronise and link in together, so it shouldn't be confused with the standard walking foot. It is a superior system. It synchronises and links in perfectly. The other advantage of the AcuFeed system is that you can actually remove the foot on the bottom, like so. Just drop that off. And you can replace this part of the foot with other options. So you can change it to attach a 1/4 inch foot, a satin stitch foot, open or closed toe options, and also even a stitch in the ditch option. So that means then that you're getting the benefit when you attach that to the bottom there, you're getting all of the benefits of that advanced superior walking foot system, but you can use that whilst you're doing some of those more specialist techniques as well. So it really is a wonderful, wonderful feature. To attach the AcuFeed, we're just going to loosen the screw on the needle bar there. So I'm just going to loosen that off and remove the ankle. And then if I undo that screw far enough, I can usually just slip this plastic bit over. Just open that a little bit more. That's over there now. Then I can tighten that screw just so that it's secured. And at the back, I can just push that metal hook in. So that has now connected with the machine. And then I can go back in with my screwdriver and just tighten everything up. And that's as simple as it is. It's just attached to the machine now, and I'm going to benefit from all of that sort of control and the synchronisation. The fabric is going to feed through beautifully. To demonstrate the AcuFeed in action, I've chosen a piece of stripy fabric because I'm sure most of you will have had the experience of beautifully matching stripes, taking the time to pin your fabric and match them up accurately, taking it to the machine, sewing it, and then finding out that once you've sewn it, the stripes are misaligned and it's all gone wrong. And the AcuFeed will prevent that from happening. So I thought it was a nice way to show you the benefits of the AcuFeed. I'm just going to select a straight stitch, lower my presser foot, and we can start stitching. And as I sew, I can just feel that really sort of secure grip as the top of the foot, the feed dogs on the foot, grip with the feed dogs on the machine and feed that fabric through evenly. It just feels so well controlled. So if we look at that now, we can see that beautiful stripe matching. Look at the accuracy and the precision there. Those stripes are matching up beautifully, and that's thanks to the AcuFeed doing its job and making sure that the fabric didn't move out of alignment how I'd pinned it. You know, it's quite a sort of fluid fabric as well. It's a chambray or a viscose chambray fabric, so it's quite fluid, and it's just given me such control and just matched those stripes up beautifully for me. Now, although there are a number of recommended stitches to be sewn with the AcuFeed, you can actually sew a range of other stitches with it as well. And one of those stitches that I just had to show you that I know is hugely popular with quilters is the Serpentine stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I've just selected stitch number 1 in mode 2, which is the Serpentine stitch. And you can see there I've sewn that lovely serpentine stitch, safe in the knowledge that those fabric layers aren't going to misalign or come out of position. So if you're sewing a quilt and you're working with lots and lots of layers of fabric where there is a real risk of those layers running away from one another, you can use the AcuFeed and then use stitches like the Serpentine stitch, which I know quilters absolutely love. All I would say is that stitches that sew forward are going to be the ones that work best with the AcuFeed. But you can just see there another example of how this is really going to benefit you, benefit your sewing, and make your projects look incredibly professional. Included with the Memory Craft 8200, when you purchase it from us, you'll also get a free motion convertible foot, so a convertible free motion foot. So you get the standard darning foot, but you also get this one as well, and it has so many useful features. To use it, you attach the straight stitch plate, which also comes included with the machine when you purchase it from us, and then you just slide it over the screw on the needle bar in a similar way to the AcuFeed and just secure that. But the wonderful thing about the convertible free motion foot is the fact that you can adjust the height of the foot. So you can raise and lower that part of the foot so that it's at the perfect height for your chosen project, your chosen thickness of fabric. And what that means is that it just makes sewing lovely smooth curves easier. It means that you can get it to the perfect height so it's not pulling up the thread or dragging on the fabric. And to do that, you just turn the screw here and you can see that foot is being raised and lowered. And it just means you can get it to the perfect height for your project, so it's just touching the fabric and you can achieve optimal results. Now, the other great thing about this foot is that it comes with the closed foot attached, but you also have the option to attach the open foot and the clear view foot, both of which are included with the machine when you purchase it from us as well. And in order to do that, you just loosen a screw on the back of the foot there, undo that screw, and then the attachment will drop off and you can replace that with whichever foot is your preference, so that you can really tailor it to the project or to your own personal preferences. You can get it to the absolute perfect height for your project, and then you can sew that free motion embroidery and do all of those techniques and achieve the optimum results for that specific project. On the Horizon Memory Craft 8200, you've also got the option to elongate your stitches. So I showed you that button when we had a look at the keypad control. I'm going to demonstrate it for you now. You can do it on stitches 68 to 79 in mode 1. So they're all those lovely satin stitches. And what it enables you to do is to elongate that pattern up to 5 times the original whilst maintaining the stitch density. So it just enables you to be able to extend those stitches, elongate them so that they fit your project how you want them to without compromising on that stitch density. And then you can also play around with the length and width as well. But if we go ahead now, I'm going to stitch pattern 70. And I'll just stitch it out in the regular formation first. So you can see there we've got that lovely satin stitch design, and that is without any modifications. That's just the standard decorative stitch. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press the elongation button, and I've got 5 options, 1 to 5. I'm going to press it 3 times so that I'm now elongating the stitch 3 times. So you can see there we've got the original stitch, and then we've got the stitch elongated 3 times, but we haven't lost any of that stitch density. The stitches are still as dense as they were on the first pattern, and I can increase that again to level 4 and level 5 if I want to, and it just means you can take a stitch and make it fit your project perfectly. With the Memory Craft 8200, you can program in combinations of stitches. So you might want to combine some decorative stitches and alternate them as you stitch them out, a flower, then a leaf, then a flower, then a leaf, for example. Or you might want to program in a longer combination of stitches using the alphabets, for example, to create a name. And doing this is very, very easy. First of all, you select your first stitch. So I'm going to go to our second menu, and I'm going to select the very popular sewing reel of thread. And once I've selected that stitch, I just press the M key for memory, and then I choose the next stitch that I want to sew out, which is going to be number 91, which is the scissors, and press the M key again. And that has now programmed that combination into the machine. If I want to go back and check what I've got programmed in, for example, sometimes you might program in a name and you might want to go back and check that you've got all the letters in the right order before you start stitching it out. You can just use these arrows as a cursor and scroll back through and see, oh, I've got the scissors there, I've got the reel of thread there, that's right, that's what I wanted. You've also got the start over key. So if you stop stitching halfway through a pattern, for example, and then want to pick it up from the beginning, you can press the start over key and it will take me back to stitch out from the reel of thread. Or you might think, actually, I don't want it to start there again. I would like it to start at the second or the third or the fourth stitch in the combination. And in that case, you just press the button again and it will take you through the different stitches you've got programmed in. When you want to clear the memory, all you do is hold down the C key and it will clear it all out for you. Let's go ahead now and stitch out that cute combination of sewing themed decorative stitches, the ones that are always everybody's favourite. And you can see there it's stitched out that super cute combination of the reel of thread and the scissors, the reel of thread and the scissors. And then the monogramming function works in exactly the same way. You just program the letters in to create names or words, and it just allows you to really personalise those projects. It's lovely if you're making gifts for people perhaps, or just personalising things for people. And the lovely thing is, because of the 9mm width of the stitches as well, you're able to achieve nice big letters, and you've got 4 alphabets to choose from. But let's go ahead and stitch something out now so that you can see that monogramming in action. And you can see there we've got lovely neat lettering, so essential. I just had to, just a little reminder of who we are and where you can purchase the machine from. If you want to, you can create further definition with the eye. You can snip off any adjoining stitches, but I think we can all agree that is some lovely neat lettering, and like I say, a good size lettering as well, thanks to that extra stitch width, taking it up to 9mm. Now the other lovely option we've got with our decorative stitches is mirroring. So I've chosen stitch number 49 from mode 2, really pretty tulip looking flower. I love that one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the mirror button, and you'll see that it will say the same stitch in the opposite direction for me. So I'm just going to press that mirror button now, and a little icon appears on the screen to tell me that I am mirroring that stitch, and I'm just going to go ahead and sew that out. I've also enabled the auto snip function as well on the machine, which we talked about earlier, so that I haven't got to press the scissor snips button. I can just press the target button. But you can see here that the machine has beautifully mirrored that stitch for me and sewn it in the opposite direction. So this is great for things like if you're sewing a project and you want to create a border and you want to go all the way around the edge with the same stitch, you can do things like that very, very easily, and it will just make your projects look so professional. One of the other opportunities to get really creative with the Memory Craft 8200 are the hand look quilt stitches. So all the information's in the manual how to set the machine up for these, but essentially we use a transparent thread in the needle, which you can purchase on our website. I'll pop a link below with our website and the link to this machine. You use standard thread in the bobbin, and then you adjust your tension as indicated in the manual. And you can use stitch 35 or 36 in mode 2, and the machine will work to pull the bobbin thread up to the top so that it looks as if the stitches have been hand sewn. Let's go ahead and sew some now. So we can see there we've got those beautiful hand look stitches. However, I've been able to sew them very quickly and very easily on the sewing machine, and that just enables you to really elevate your projects and add a unique little twist to them without having to do the difficult manual work. Another incredibly useful feature with the Memory Craft Horizon 8200 is the fact that you get a straight stitch plate included with the machine, as well as your standard stitch plate. And a straight stitch plate is incredibly useful for things like working with very fine or sheer fabrics that can have a tendency to get pulled down into the machine by the feed dogs. The straight stitch plate just reduces that and makes sewing those sorts of fabrics much, much easier. But the even better thing about this is how easy it is to switch the stitch plates out. So to do this, we just remove the accessory tray. And on a lot of sewing machines, if you want to either switch out your stitch plate or you want to remove it to clean around the bobbin case, which is, you know, really important part of maintaining your machine and keeping everything working in an optimum way. Normally you have to get a screwdriver and you might have to unscrew a couple of screws or wedge the stitch plate off, but actually with the Janome Memory Craft 8200 you've got a button here. If I press that and you watch the stitch plate, it just pops up for me, and then I can easily remove that and replace it with the straight stitch plate or clean the bobbin case and the surrounding area. And then to push it back into position again, once you've slotted it back into place there, you literally just push down and it clicks back into place. So it just makes that maintenance of your machine and switching out those stitch plates lovely and easy. While we've got the accessory tray removed, another feature that is really worth shouting about on the Horizon Memory Craft 8200 is the incredibly large extension table that comes with the machine when you purchase it from us. You just slot it on, but you can see here that that is a really extensive extension table. It measures 42 centimetres that way and 62 centimetres that way, and this will just enable you to work on those bigger projects like quilts or coats or curtains with ease. You've got plenty of room here to support the fabric for you, so you can just concentrate on the sewing. And this, in conjunction with that extra large space under the arm, really does make those sorts of projects a breeze. Dropping the feed dogs is very easy as well. The lever for that is located on the side of the machine, making it really accessible rather than round the back of the machine. Just push the lever towards the front of the machine and you'll hear those feed dogs drop down, and that means that you're able to move your fabric freely across the needle plate in any direction to do things like free motion embroidery, especially seeing as you've also got that lovely adjustable darning foot included with the machine when you purchase it from us as well. So you've got everything you need to get you started. If you're impressed with all of these incredible features and you'd like to purchase the machine, just click the link in the corner of the screen where you can view it on our website and purchase it there. In the box you'll find everything you would expect: a detailed instruction manual, the foot control, the semi-rigid cover, some spare needles, bobbins, an extra spool pin, a cleaning brush, screwdrivers, but then you also get that extra large extension table, a knee lift so that you can keep both hands on the fabric and raise the presser foot, the 2 stitch plates, straight stitch and standard. Then you get 16 feet, so you get all the ones you would usually expect with a sewing machine: the standard foot, the zipper foot, an overcasting foot, a blind hem foot, but you also get that lovely convertible free motion foot, a rolled hem foot, the AcuFeed foot. There are so many extras included with this machine. You have everything you need to get started and so much more. Then if you want to take your sewing even further, there are a wide range of feet and accessories available to buy separately for this machine too. So you might want to buy some of those additional feet to use in conjunction with the AcuFeed system, a 1/4 inch foot or a stitch in the ditch foot perhaps. You might want to buy something like a bias binder foot, some of those more specialist feet. Just click the link in the corner of the screen, look for the Janome feet and accessories, and you'll find everything there. And if you need any help choosing, don't hesitate to ask, because that is what we're here for. I've given you a really good overview of the Memory Craft 8200 QCP, but if I've left any of your questions unanswered, don't hesitate to get in contact. We're always happy to help. All of our machines come with a full manufacturer's warranty, so that's 2 years on this machine, and in the unlikely event that you have an issue, don't hesitate to get in contact. Very often we can solve the majority of problems over the phone, but if that's not the case, we'll collect the machine and do everything for you. We offer the best prices, but if you do happen to see this machine cheaper anywhere else, don't hesitate to get in contact and we'll be happy to help. All of our machines are delivered free of charge by courier the next working day with a dedicated time slot, so you know exactly when that happy post is going to arrive. I hope you've enjoyed learning about this incredible machine today, and thanks for watching.